Sam understood the two pension options. He could take the bigger check or a smaller one that would continue to Sally if he died first. But that pension decision couldn't really be made in isolation because it affected what Sally would have to live on if Sam died first. And then it also had to be coordinated with their $1.1 million portfolio and when they claimed Social Security and how they'd fund those years in between and even some tax planning opportunities here. So by the end here, I'm going to show you how all those pieces fit together into one retirement plan. Most people treat a pension election like a decision that you just make once and just kind of move on from, but it's really one part of a much bigger retirement plan. And that's the mistake that I want to walk you through today. So let me tell you about a couple that I'll call Sam and Sally. So Sam's 63. He's retiring this year after almost 3 decades with the same employer. And Sally's 61, and she's planning to keep working for about 2 more years before she retires too. They've got about 1.1 million saved. Almost all of it's in pre-tax accounts. Their withdrawals from that, they're all going to be taxable. Now, Sam also has a pension from his employer with 2 monthly payout options to choose between. So some pensions offer a lump sum option as well, but Sam has to decide between these 2 monthly payouts. So that's what we're covering here today. So he could take it as a single life benefit. He'd get $4,300 a month for as long as Sam is alive, and it stops the day that Sam dies. Or take a reduced amount of $3,650 a month with a 100% survivor benefit, meaning if Sam dies first, then Sally keeps getting that $3,650 for the rest of her life. And once that election is made and payments begin, it's generally permanent. That's why it's worth thinking through everything here before that form gets signed. Now, that's a $650 a month difference, which is $7,800 a year. Now, Sam's leaning towards the survivor option because, well, that's just what you do when you're married, right? Well, let's talk about it. I'm Ryan Kravitz. I'm a CFP professional, and I've helped a lot of couples through this exact decision. So let's see what it would actually mean for Sally. What happens if Sam takes that single life option and then he passes away first? I mean, it could happen right away, a few years in. It could happen 10 or 15 years down the road. I mean, who knows, right? But when he dies, that pension stops completely. Sally goes from a household with $4,300 a month as a pension check to a household with zero pension income overnight. Now, let's talk about Social Security. So Sally is projected to receive about $1,800 a month at 67, and Sam about $4,100 a month if he does in fact wait until age 70. Now, once both are claiming, then Social Security certainly is going to become a very meaningful part of their overall income. But it doesn't work like the survivor pension option, because when one spouse dies, the survivor doesn't just keep both checks. They get the larger of the two benefits instead. And in this example, that means that Sally would keep Sam's larger benefit, but then her own $1,800 a month benefit would go away. Now, once both Social Security benefits have started, if Sam dies first, then Sally loses the entire pension. And, of course, a sizable chunk of their combined Social Security. All told, that would reduce Sally's household income by roughly $73,200 a year. The entire $51,600 pension plus $21,600 of Social Security income. And that's in the same year she's grieving her husband. And now she's filing taxes as a single person with narrower tax brackets than they had as a married couple. She's lost a lot of guaranteed income, but now she'll likely need to pull more from the portfolio to cover her spending. So her taxable income may not fall nearly as much. That income taxed under single brackets instead of married ones can certainly end up taxed at higher rates perhaps than even before. And her expenses don't just, necessarily cut in half because Sam's gone, right? I mean, there's still a lot of the same bills. So it sounds bad, right? I mean, so you should definitely take the survivor option. Well, maybe. I mean, the survivor election isn't automatically right for every couple. As an example, if Sally had a large pension or maybe she had savings of her own, then the math here could look very different. The other thing is that the ages and the health of each spouse matter too, because a wide age gap or a serious health concern for either one of them can tip the decision further either in one direction or the other. I mean, some couples will handle this another way. They take that larger single life pension and then they use part of that extra $650 a month for life insurance on the pension holder. So if Sam died first, then the death benefit could help replace that lost pension. Now, if Sally died first, then Sam could just cancel the policy and then keep that larger check for himself, for his life. Now, I ran some quotes for a healthy 63-year-old man. And on a 20-year term, just as an example, a 20-year term for $500,000, that might run $340 a month if he's in better than average health. Or it could be closer to $540 a month if he's in more or less average health. Now, again, that's just an example, since the real numbers here depend on how much income that Sally would really need to have replaced and want to have replaced. Now, either quote here is less than that $650 a month that they'd give up under the survivor pension. But that's not really an apples to apples comparison, is it? I mean, the insurance pays out once, maybe, right? Only if Sam dies while the policy's in force. So say, for example, that he buys that policy at age 63 and then he dies at 84, a year after the 20-year term policy lapses. Well, Sally would be 82 by then. 2 decades of premiums paid and nothing back. That's a bad deal, certainly by that measure. Then again, I mean, think about this for a second. If Social Security and the pension were already covering most of their spending by then, they may not have needed to rely much on the portfolio. And so perhaps it would grow to a sizable amount so that Sally could still be fine without the payout. Perhaps, right? I mean, the survivor pension, though, that of course carries no such timing risk. It pays for as long as Sally lives, no matter when Sam passes. And life insurance isn't guaranteed either, since Sam would still need to qualify medically. Now, after weighing those trade-offs, they just preferred the certainty of the survivor pension. But this is where the planning gets more interesting, because that was only the first decision. Now we have to figure out how the pension fits with their $1.1 million portfolio, how much of the portfolio needs to stay conservative before Social Security starts, and what happens also when a valuable tax planning window opens once Sally retires. Now, they have about 30% in stocks and 70% in bonds and cash. So Sam and Sally are quite conservative. They're not big risk takers, they had told me. Their thinking here is simple. Retirement is starting. They've got guaranteed income coming in. So why take any more risk than they actually have to? Can make sense. But here's a distinction that's easy to miss. There's a difference between risk tolerance and risk capacity. Tolerance is how much ups and downs that you can personally stomach. Capacity is how much risk that you can actually afford to take, whether or not it feels comfortable. It's more of an objective measure. Guaranteed income changes your capacity even when it doesn't change your tolerance at all. I mean, once both Social Security benefits begin, the pension and Social Security together get close to covering what they actually want to be able to spend each year. So much less of the portfolio is going to be needed for their regular spending at that time. But that's still several years away. And until then, the portfolio still has to cover that gap on its own. And so some of that 70% is genuinely there for that, what you would call a bridge. But the rest of the money there really comes down to their comfort, their tolerance, their risk tolerance. It's not because of a specific dollar need. Staying that conservative does have a real cost too. I mean, it certainly makes it harder for their money to keep up with inflation over time. So this becomes a genuine balancing act of, capacity versus tolerance. What actually gets the job done versus what they're comfortable with and can sleep at night with. If this allocation didn't provide enough growth to support the plan, then I would definitely push harder for more stocks. But For now, 30/70 is where they're comfortable, so that's what they kept. But once both Social Security checks are coming in and the portfolio it really isn't needed much for that day-to-day spending, then definitely by then I'd revisit it because they should have more capacity then to hold more stocks for growth, assuming, of course, that they're comfortable with that added volatility. Now, the way their retirement dates lined up also created an opportunity here to do some tax planning. So Sam and Sally want to be able to spend about $9,500 a month to maintain their lifestyle, which is about $114,000 a year. Now, while Sally is still working, her paycheck keeps their taxable income higher. So this isn't actually their low tax window yet. Now, the window is going to open once Sally retires at 63. And for those first few years, their taxable income is primarily the pension and then the withdrawals that they need for spending and any additional amount that they deliberately convert to a Roth. Now, neither spouse is collecting Social Security yet, and Sam's R&Ds are still about a decade away. So that stretch gives them a good window to look for opportunities like planned IRA withdrawals, maybe some smaller targeted Roth conversions as well along the way. That means potentially moving some money from their pre-tax IRA into a Roth, and in those years when the tax cost really makes the most sense. Not just converting as much as possible, but just using those years when the tax cost is genuinely low compared what they would likely pay later on. Now, once Social Security begins, a lot of that room is going to start to shrink, although they may still have some opportunities before R&Ds begin. Now, let those years pass, and then eventually the pension and the Social Security and the R&Ds are all going to be producing taxable income at the same time. And if Sam dies first, then Sally still has several taxable income sources, but now again, she has to file as a single person. So here's what a coordinated plan looks like for Sam and Sally. So first off, as I mentioned, they chose the 100% survivor pension. So that means accepting $650 a month less today in exchange for knowing that the $3,650 pension would continue to Sally if Sam died first. Second, Sam delays Social Security all the way to age 70 instead of claiming sometime sooner or even claiming right away. Reason being that increases his own benefits substantially. And since he is the larger benefit, it's also the one that Sally would step up to as the survivor. Now, Sally plans to claim her own benefit when she is 67. And these decisions here would certainly be revisited if either spouse's health were to change, or if the portfolio moved a lot, or really anything else. I mean, it's a plan. It's not a rule that's just carved in stone at this point. Third, they keep that roughly 30% in stocks and 70% in bonds and cash. They have the capacity to take on more risk, but the plan can still work with this more conservative allocation, and it fits how conservative they are. And fourth, once Sally retires, they'll look for opportunities for IRA withdrawals and maybe some smaller targeted Roth conversions during those first few years before Social Security begins. And because delaying Social Security creates a temporary income gap, enough of the portfolio stays conservative and easy to access to provide the money that they're going to need during those bridge years, including the additional withdrawals that'll be needed to help cover taxes. That need starts to decline once Sally's Social Security begins. So before you make a pension election, answer these three questions. Number one, what would your spouse actually have to live on if you died first? Number two, how should your pension fit with the rest of your retirement income and investment plan? And number three, where are the tax planning opportunities before Social Security begins, and then again before R&Ds begin? If any of this sounds like your situation, that's exactly the kind of retirement planning that I help people with. There's a link in the description to get started, or if you're watching on a TV, then you could scan the QR code that's on the screen. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.